Smart Impressions with Rachel.
Today's guest is a great special guest, and I'm going to tell you why. Number one, he has written a couple books that are specific to the industry that I love so much, and he is a 53-year-old career veteran in this space. So we're talking double the amount of expertise I have. He's bringing it to the table today. The author of The Invisible Industry and Trade Shows from One Country to the Next. This is what he's been living his life, and I'm so blessed to have him here. Thank you so much for joining me, Larry. It's great to have you here. Award winner in the space. So exciting to get this conversation started.
So happy to be with you.
Fantastic. So, you know, these books are pretty spectacular because really I find there's so much happening in the trade show space. So I first want to just jump into, pull back the black curtain here, this global trade show world that we're living in and people are part of. What really inspired you to write your book?
Well, I fumbled into the industry, as you probably fumbled into what you're doing. But 53 years ago, I got a degree in design working with Buckminster Fuller. I don't know if you're familiar with Buckminster Fuller. He was the designer of geodesic domes. He did the Montreal World Fair for the U.S. Pavilion. And after I graduated, I said, I have a degree in design, but design what? So I came back to Chicago and got a job designing trade show exhibits. And what the heck is a trade show exhibit? Now, when I got back to Chicago, McCormick Place burned to the ground and they rebuilt it. And everybody needed an exhibit in Chicago. So I was pretty much at hand. Now, if you look behind my right shoulder, you could see a T-square there. Nobody uses those instruments anymore. Those are antiques of the way people used to design and draw by hand. Now everything's on computer and such. But in any case, to get back to your question, I fumbled into a trade show design of exhibits, and that's what I did for my starting years. I became very interested and passionate about it. Went on to join the largest exhibit company in the United States called Greyhound Exhibit Group, owned by the Greyhound Corporation. Also owns a company called GES, which is the show organizer, one of them, two, Freeman being the other. And then became president of my company. And after that, became passionate about this industry. I became president of the Exhibit Designer and Producers Association, and then became president of the International Federation of all the exhibit companies in the world called IFES, the International Federation of Exhibition Service Companies. And that's what turned me on to writing a book about industry differences. When I finished my term, I wrote back to every one of the people I met throughout the world who owned exhibit companies and asked them this question. When I come to your country, how should I act differently? What should I do that is uniquely special about fitting in to your culture and your part of the world? And amazingly, they all responded quickly. And I said, holy crap, I guess I got to write a book. I didn't expect this kind of a return on my question. So I wrote this is the third edition of this book. The first one was written in 2018, but it essentially responds to how they felt about how people should act when they come to their country. I'm not the expert in the world. I happen to be the collector of information that turned me on to this industry. And what prompted me to write the book, the second book, there was a study in 2023 by EIC. EIC is the economic, and the study was done by Oxford Economics. And the study stated how big is the industry worldwide. And it came. And now, when they said the industry, they talked about meetings, conventions, any form of meeting, B2B, C2C, B2C, and it came to $1.6 trillion. Wow!
Wow.
$1.6 trillion dollars. Whoever thought that what I did for 53 years was an industry that was generating this kind of revenue? So
Mm.
I retired and just became very passionate about justifying what I did for 53 years. And I'm so happy. The Invisible Industry is a book about, and when I say the invisible industry, it's not invisible, but what's invisible is that no one knows about the industry. The industry is composed of associations who have private events, and these private events are not advertised. So therefore, nobody knows they're going on unless you're within that industry. Now there's B2C, that's business uh,
To customer, consumer,
like
right?
the auto show, the boat show, the those are public shows that are advertised. But most trade shows are not advertised. They're within the industry, and you're invited. You're not. You don't buy a ticket. Now in Europe it's different. You could buy a ticket for a trade show there, but in the U.S. it's private. But the amount of revenue that's generated as a result of every one of these shows is extremely relevant. Um, Relevant in the sense that it brings money to the cities that sponsor these shows, and it also brings money to the exhibitors who invest. And it's pretty expensive to do trade shows. They invest heavily, and they invest in the ability to communicate their new products, their new services and such. And that the magic of trade shows is emotion, emotion that's generated by face-to-face communication. Face-to-face, unlike what we're doing. This is about as close as face-to-face as we're going to get here. But in a reality situation of face-to-face, you would never think about looking at your cell phone while you're talking to someone. Yet you'll see people in a restaurant across the table from each other, and they're on their cell phones. And in many cases, they're talking to each other. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been on Zoom calls back in the COVID days, and believe me, during those period, everybody was on a Zoom call, and there's 6 or 7 people on the call, and half the people are on their cell phone. And it's so rude. You could see this happening. They're not listening, or they are, but you would never do that if you were out to dinner with someone, and or even you and I right now. If I was on my cell phone while I'm talking to you, that's rude. It really is terrible. But the magic of trade shows is face-to-face contact and generating emotion. And when you generate emotion, you generate trust, and you generate a willingness to listen further to their elevator speeches.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely. I
the
want to,
Americans in particular are the worst. They jump right into the elevator pitch at a trade show, and that's really uh, so much against the grain in the rest of the world.
yeah,
And as you
no doubt.
travel from one country to the next, you really have to adjust to their ways of doing business. In Austria, they'll allow you to be really close to each other talking. And that always made me nervous because somebody's in my face so close. Where in Asia, you don't dare pat somebody back, give them a hug. You know, we do that in America, and the Italians, the Greeks, we very they accept that. But identifying what's okay is really important, especially for the American audience. And the invisible industry was written from an American point of view, and that is we have to get along with the rest of the world. The invisible industry starts with the world fairs. The world fairs are how the whole concept of trade shows started. Uh, Inventors, inventions, Thomas Edison, Otis Elevator. They all presented their things at a World Fair for the very first time, and that was the birth of how trade shows started and came to the United States in the early 1900s. And associations of the industries were the ones who sponsored these kind of events. Now, the number one trade show in the United States today is the Consumer Electronics Show, CES show. It's in
Big
Las
one.
Vegas.
That's massive.
It
What a
just
show.
finished. And you would never think that other shows like the concrete show, the mining show, these are all in Las Vegas kind of going on out as well.
Yeah.
But the amount of money that they generate in the way of business is amazing. And the magic, back to what I said earlier, is face-to-face communication, the ability to connect with people. It's not the architecture, it's not the pretty exhibits that I designed that nobody cared about, but they were the stage for this play, or they were stage set, I should say, for the play. And that's important because on
Yeah,
a
of course,
stage
the
set,
environment.
there's a lighting, there's all kind of, but we can't forget that for an effective stage play, you better have good actors.
Yeah.
And the
The
actors
people.
are the ones, they're called the exhibitors. They're the ones who engage with the visitors as they come in. And that's as important as any of the architecture. And it's really something that most people are not as good at as they could be. It's hard. It really is. You want to get right into your elevator pitch, and it's the wrong thing to do. Yeah, you have to start slowly, especially internationally.
Yeah, well, I think, what do you agree that it's all based on this global expansion? I mean, even the World Fairs, it was about getting the world and what they're doing in other regions to really highlight what's happening so that the U.S. would be able to understand and maybe even explore those, technologies in a way that the rest of the world wasn't, able to do at that time. But now, even from a trade show perspective, these global trade shows, there are millions of people traveling around the world to get into these new countries for business expansion, right? And what do you find what have you come across, and I'm sure this has really changed, where businesses and leaders are fundamentally misunderstanding about this opportunity?
Misunderstanding. I don't. I'm not sure if I understand what the question is. I think they're naive to the sensitivities of other countries, especially the Americans. And the Americans never had to go abroad to sell their goods. It wasn't until 2012 that the percentage of trade shows that people did outside of their country in the United States was small compared to the rest of the world. The rest of the world has been doing international shows all this time, and they got pretty good at understanding and being sensitive to cultures. Americans didn't, and to their credit, they didn't have to. One of my biggest customers when I was at Exhibit Group in Chicago was General Motors Truck. They were big, and I always said, "Why aren't you selling your trucks overseas?" And he says, "Larry, we can't make them fast enough here in the United States. We don't need to be bothered with that." How short-sighted that was. Of course, they caught on later, and they are trying to sell them overseas as well. But my point is that there was enough business here that we didn't need to go outside of our country.
Yeah.
And as a result, we were not as skilled and sensitive as the rest of the world was about doing business internationally.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, I want to highlight a couple numbers I pulled up from the global exhibition market, because clearly North America being one of the largest at 31% of this billion dollar industry, Europe being at 36% of the industry, Asia Pacific around 25%, and the Middle East and Africa only at 10%. And I mention that because a lot of the listeners, as much as we do highlight a global followers on the show, we love to really help the Middle East, which the last trade show I went to, 235,000 people attended. So it's quite a rapidly growing region for this industry, and we're valued at $8.5 billion USD today in 2025, which is incredible, and it's expecting a growth about 12% in the next 10 years. It's a big industry and it's just growing.
Right.
It's crazy.
And Dubai is coming on quick as being in a player.
No doubt.
Other areas of Singapore, I'm waiting for South America to really kick into gear. They're not. But the American market is still a pretty valuable, and gosh, when the Europeans hear me talk about it, trade shows, they're the kings of trade shows. The Germans started it, and of course, the very show that Euroshop that's going on as we speak in Dusseldorf, it's really the mecca of the trade show world. But the rest of the world is catching on and doing a remarkable job at providing the infrastructure and the mentality of friendly environment to do business. One of the problems that the United States has right now is visas and the ability for international visitors to come and attend a show. And if you're gonna make it hard for them to get into the country, gosh, that makes it hard for business as well. Now,
No doubt.
now during the COVID period, it changed a lot of things. The one thing is that it changed is that people weren't getting on airplanes. Trade shows continued, but they were done virtually. So you could attend a show and talk to the CEO of a company via the Zoom,
Right.
right in his booth. And that CEO is showing you all his stuff through a camera, but you're not there.
Right.
So attendance really didn't lag behind with that concept. So a lot of the things that happened during those 2 years are now happening in the trade show world. Much more is digital, much more is technology that didn't exist before that we're using for trade show engagement.
Yeah.
And engagement really being the experience. And we're calling exhibits today experiential marketing. I mean, how did you feel about the whole process is really the magic. It's not the architecture. And part of feeling good means that you've got to create an environment and create an attraction that makes people feel, God, I like this company. They make me feel good, and hopefully their products are worthy. But it's a whole different mentality today. And part of that is connecting the parts of the world together. Now, this association that I was president of is called IFAS, the International Federation of Exhibition Service Contractors. These are exhibit companies throughout the world. And they all have a single purpose, and that is to help an exhibitor from another country when they come to your country. So at that point, you're not the customer has two different servants, the home country's exhibit company and the visiting country's exhibiting company. And they have to work together to help that single customer achieve their goals, and their goal being sales. And being able to measure that experience is really what it's all about as well. Like I said earlier, it's extremely expensive to do trade shows. If you look in my book, there's a pie chart that shows the 7 components to marketing and internet marketing. There's 7 different pieces of marketing. the most expensive and the biggest is trade shows.
Yeah, I just
And if
saw.
it's go- and if it's going to be that expensive, you better be able to justify to your CFO or to the financial people, well, what are we getting for this investment? And we're getting good at kidding ourselves sometimes with measurement.
Yeah,
And
if they're measuring at all. I mean, if they're measuring
no,
at
you're
all.
right. No, you're absolutely right. So it's interesting that you're in Dubai because that is an area that, and one of the things that attracted me most about talking to you was this is an up and coming area. This is an area where we need to understand and be a little more alert about what do we need to do differently to compete, not to compete, but to engage and to not be the American jumping into your elevator pitch because that happens so much and it's a turnoff.
Yeah, well, this region is relationship building, right? It's all based on relationship, and I always like to tell people it's about 7 seconds they're going to judge you how you engage, what you
Right.
smell like, what you sound like, and what questions to open up conversation. Which you're right, if someone's just constantly in the state of selling just by pushing their product, that never works well, And you've seen major global markets, and you must see there are some massive differences that, between the trade show culture and just business approach in general, not just from an American perspective, but from some of these other perspectives. We're getting everyone in the world coming into our region, and you really see, depending on where they are from and, what experience and knowledge they bring to the table, where their challenges may be on the trade show floor. What are some of the big ones that stand out to you?
It, uh, Differences of all the countries in the world, the American way of doing business is different, extremely different. We have rules and regulations that are practiced nowhere else in the world. In the United States, we have show contractors, Freeman, GS. These are people that essentially manage the show for the association. The rest of the world doesn't do it that way. Now, when you hire a contractor, they take over all of the logistics. And there's a dirty word in the American industry called drayage. Drayage is a cost based on weight of how much things weigh that I will charge you for bringing it into your space. Now, in Europe, you could pull your truck right up on the floor and unload it right there. In the United States, you can't do that. You have to go through the dock, and the union people have to bring it to the booth and take the crates, store them, and bring them back at the end of the show and put them on a truck. And that's all done by how much the things weigh. Now, in the 1990s, because this was getting so expensive, the market got smart and they started inventing ways, what can we do to make things lighter? And all of a sudden, portable exhibits, fabric, and lightweight systems became a more popular thing because they were lighter. They didn't weigh as much. So therefore, a trend started in how you designed your structures based on saving weight.
Cost,
And
right?
that's a
Sure.
and that's a major difference in the whole rest of the world. The other is square feet versus square meters.
Oh
And in the
well.
United States, everything is 10 by 10 increments, and the rest of
Yeah.
the world, it's meters that are in any size and shape,
Mm.
and it's not the same. And and the way you design an exhibit is different too. In Europe, the main entry or place is the bar. You have to have a bar. You have to have a place to meet and
Socialize.
greet. Now, if you
Right.
go to any cocktail party, and I know that I don't know when you were back in the United States, but everybody would come into the kitchen, of course, and stand around the bar.
Yeah.
And you would say, "Come on," and go in the living room, sit down. No, they don't want to sit down. They want to stand and chat. And that's the
Right.
same with the trade show exhibit. Create a place for people to engage. and to chat and not feel sold upon.
Yeah,
And
well,
in
you have that
Europe,
cup to
it's
stand
really
behind and
different
say,
in Europe. They'll offer you a cup of coffee with a saucer and a plate, real china. And why is that? You're not going to walk away with that, are you?
oh,
If I was to serve you coffee in a paper cup, I would take and say thank you and walk away.
oh.
But if you got a saucer and you're not going to walk away with that. So their whole purpose is to create a purpose for engagement, a reason
Clever. I
to
mean, these
stick
are
around. And
strategies. Yeah,
yeah,
they're smart
right.
strategies. I here in the region they're doing coffee. You know, right? They have coffee experience, and you see people. I just think it's a brilliant marketing expense. So you can have people at your stand. There's so much competition on the show floor. How are you going to drive that traffic? And so giving away free complimentary coffees, lattes, and cappuccinos is the way they do it over
Right.
here. So it's great. But Larry, I got just a few minutes left, and I really want our audience to hear from you the top three strategies from your perspective with all the experience that you bring and the books you've written and even this great RFP template that you have available. I'm going to share the link on this video so that everyone has the access to it, because this is great if you are exhibiting in other countries and you're requesting any exhibition services from a supplier standpoint, what you need to think about and look at. So I love that you've created this. It's accessible, and we'll be sharing it with our audience. But what are your top three strategies if someone is investing in a global trade show participation in another region? What should they be prioritizing?
Rachel, I'm so happy that you mentioned the RFP template. I get myself yapping, and that is an extremely valuable tool. And just to repeat a little bit about what it is,
Sure, go ahead.
when you're going to request services from in another country, this RFP template asks all the right questions, but it translates certain key words into your language, the word table, the word carpet, the word whatever. And it really is to improve and expedite communication. We don't have a lot of time. I need a price, and there's all. What did you mean by? What does this mean? And this eliminates a lot of that misunderstanding in communication. We are so lucky in America that English is the official language of business, for crying out loud,
Oh, yeah.
and the rest of the world. So the template is in English, but translated into 13 different languages. That the keywords are translated separately. It allows the communication process to go quicker and to make sure what you say is what you mean. And that's what that number one. It's an answer your question. That's one of the first key things I would utilize to
Well,
improve communication. Secondly, would be if you're going to go to another country, work with a partner. Don't try and just think you got it all figured out. What worked for me in Las Vegas is going to work the same in Dubai. It's not going to work that way. Trust that local partner's knowledge and experience. I like it, but it's really what you need to do, and being sensitive and a willingness to see the differences, I think, is really important. But the most important of all, and forget all the architecture and the rest, it's training your exhibitor, your salespeople, or the people that are going to be the ones in the face of their ability to engage. How is it that they understand that you don't hug a person from Asia? You don't.
right.
Uh, there are certain things that you just don't do. And if anything, in my book, it's really those few things that not to do, because believe it or not, there's a lot we have in common, most in common. I don't like the fact that I'm making my book out to be like there's so many major differences from 45 different countries. There's not, but there are some unique idiosyncrasies and differences that really should be you should be aware of. But if there was any one I can say to you, Rachel, it would be to select a partner from that country to work with and trust their point of view. And if I was to do an exhibit in Dubai, I would come to you. You've lived
Aw,
there, and you
thank
you
you.
you know the country, and you're American. So I have a friend who owns an exhibit company in Japan. Chris Dorn's his name, and I shouldn't. But if I was an American looking to go to Japan, I would want to deal with someone who understands me and my culture, and he understands the culture that he's lived in now 20 years. And those kind of things, you just don't have time to read and know everything about another culture for that 4 days you're going to be there. So you got to trust that other side and to help you through it, especially rules and regulations. It can be very costly if you ignore it in that regard.
Amazing. Larry, those are some good ones. I'm just going to repeat it for the audience. So we're talking about culturally sourcing, suppliers in the right way. There's my timer letting me know that our time is up. Oh, this conversation can go on for a while. Number 2 is get your local partner, because obviously there's no way you're going to know what the local people know, and it's going to save you a lot of time, effort, energy, and money. And then number 3 is train your team, because they are the people interfacing with the people on the ground. And if they don't look good, you won't look good. And so getting that training up to par is highly the best stuff I've heard today, Larry. I can't thank you enough for joining me on this great episode. We're calling it the $100 billion floor, and it's all about inside the invisible industry that you've highlighted in your book. I do encourage everyone to reach out, grab a book, grab your copy, and best of all, grab this template that's complimentary so that you can make sure you're
Absolutely.
sourcing suppliers in the right way forward. Thank you so much, Larry, for joining me today.
And if further information, www.larrykulturwick.com at my website, and I'd be happy to help anyone having trouble getting the book to get it into their hands. I wrote this out of passion for what I did for 53 years and an appreciation for an industry that nobody really knew much about. And I'm so happy to say today that it's no longer an invisible industry. People are recognizing it for what it is. And those, my friends and worker bees within the industry are the ones that I really I'm speaking to the most. They go unnoticed, but they're the ones that make it happen. Thank
A
you.
lot of people behind the door. There's a lot of people making these experiences happening, and I love that it's all based on emotion. I'm passionate about that as well. It's all about elevating people within this space so they can do the best job for business success globally. And so I am so gracious for your time, effort, and energy. I know it was a little challenging to get in here, but we made it happen, Larry. So
Thank you, Rachel.
I'm going to link all your good stuff. I'm going to tag you on all these platforms, and I encourage everyone to jump into the conversation. Ask Larry any questions that you may have on LinkedIn. He'll be the way for him to engage, and let us know what you think about the episode. Until next time, I'll see you next time at Smart Impressions. We're really
Thank you.
uncovering business relationships one connection at a time. So have a beautiful day, and I wish you much business success. Bye-bye, everybody.